You're lying in bed. It's late. You have a decision to make. Maybe it's small. Maybe it's important. And instead of making it, your brain starts running every possible scenario, every outcome, every way it could go wrong, every way you might regret it, every way someone might judge you for it. Hours pass. You haven't decided anything. You're exhausted. And somehow, the smarter you are, the worse this gets. Overthinking isn't a sign of weakness. It's not anxiety in the clinical sense, although it can become that. Overthinking is what happens when a powerful mind has no off switch. And research consistently shows that people with higher intelligence are significantly more prone to it. Today we're covering why smart people overthink, what's actually happening in the brain when it happens, and what it quietly costs you every single day. The same cognitive abilities that make you good at analyzing problems, pattern recognition, causal thinking, scenario modeling, are the exact same abilities that make you terrible at switching off. A less analytical mind encounters a decision and makes it. A more analytical mind encounters a decision and immediately starts building a model. What are the variables? What are the second-order consequences? What am I missing? This isn't a flaw. In complex, high-stakes situations, this is exactly what you want your brain to do. The problem is that the brain doesn't distinguish between high-stakes and low-stakes situations. It applies the same processing power to choosing a career as it does to choosing lunch. Psychologist Daria Zabalina found that people with higher creative intelligence have what she calls a leaky sensory gate. Their brains let in more information, more stimuli, more possibilities than average. This is why creative and intelligent people are often more imaginative, more empathetic, more innovative, and also more overwhelmed, more prone to being trapped by their own thinking. The brain that sees more considers more. And considering more takes time. And time spent considering is time not spent deciding. Overthinking isn't one thing. It shows up in 3 distinct patterns. And most overthinkers are caught in all 3 simultaneously. The first trap is rumination. Thinking about the past, replaying decisions you've already made, conversations you've already had, things you can't change. The brain keeps returning to them, searching for a different outcome that will never come. Studies show that people who ruminate heavily are significantly more likely to develop depression, not because they're weak, but because the brain treats repeated thought as unresolved business. Every time you replay a memory, your brain tags it as still open, still a problem to solve. The second trap is anticipatory anxiety, thinking about the future, running scenarios of things that haven't happened yet, preparing for problems that may never arrive. The brain can't easily distinguish between imagining something and experiencing it. So every catastrophic scenario you run in your head produces a mild stress response. Your body starts preparing for a crisis that exists only in your mind. The third trap is meta-thinking. Thinking about your thinking, wondering whether you're overthinking, analyzing why you can't stop analyzing, building a second layer of thought on top of the first. This is where intelligent people get most stuck, because their analytical ability turns inward on itself. They become observers of their own thought process, which creates a loop that is almost impossible to exit through more thinking. Overthinking feels productive. That's the trap. It feels like you're working on the problem, like you're being thorough, like you're being responsible. But research consistently shows the opposite. A Columbia Business School study found that beyond a certain threshold, additional deliberation actually decreases decision quality, not increases it. The brain has a processing limit. Past that limit, more thinking produces noise, not signal. Overthinking also consumes the same cognitive resources you need for actual work. Every mental cycle spent replaying the past or simulating the future is a cycle not available for the present. This is why chronic overthinkers often feel mentally exhausted without having done anything. The processing is real, the output is not. And then there's the paralysis. The longer you think about a decision without making it, the more weight the decision accumulates. What started as a simple choice becomes charged with weeks of mental energy. Now it feels significant. Now the stakes feel higher than they actually are. Now making the wrong choice feels catastrophic, because you've invested so much in the process of deciding. Psychologist Barry Schwartz calls this the paradox of choice. The more options you consider, the less satisfied you are with whichever one you pick. Overthinkers don't just consider more options. They consider every option, every consequence, every possible regret. And then they wonder why nothing ever feels quite right. Here's what doesn't work. Telling yourself to stop overthinking. If you could just stop, you would have. The instruction to stop thinking about something requires thinking about it. What actually works is redirection, not suppression. The first technique is time boxing your thinking. Give yourself a defined window, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, to think about a problem. When the time is up, the thinking is done. The brain resists this at first. It will insist the problem isn't solved yet. But most problems aren't solved by more thinking. They're solved by acting and adjusting. The second technique is writing it down. When thoughts stay in your head, they circulate. The brain keeps them active because it's afraid of losing them. When you write them down, the brain releases them. They're stored. They're safe. The third technique is the only question that matters. What is the smallest action I can take right now? Overthinking thrives in abstraction. It collapses in the face of specificity. One concrete step breaks the loop, not because it solves everything, but because it moves the conversation from your head into the world. Here's the thing nobody says. Overthinking isn't the problem. It's a symptom. The real problem is a belief, often unconscious, that if you think hard enough, long enough, thoroughly enough, you can guarantee the outcome. That you can think your way to certainty in an uncertain world. You can't. No one can. And intelligent people struggle most with this because their intelligence has, in many areas of life, actually worked. Thinking harder did produce better results. So the brain keeps applying the same strategy, even when the problem isn't one that thinking can solve. The most effective people aren't the ones who think less. They're the ones who've learned which problems yield to thinking, and which ones only yield to action. They've learned that a good decision made now beats a perfect decision made never. Certainty is not available. What is available is movement. 3 traps: rumination about the past, anticipatory anxiety about the future, meta-thinking about your own thoughts, all running simultaneously, none of them moving you forward. Here's your question for today. Which of the 3 traps do you fall into most? Rumination, anticipatory anxiety, or meta-thinking? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if you spent the last 10 minutes analyzing whether this video applies to you, well, you already know the answer.